In this video, we're going to talk about break-even analysis, and we'll begin with an example. A company manufactures a 48-inch LED TV that sells to retailers for $550. The cost of making X of these TVs for a month is given by the cost function C of X equals 250X plus 213,000. Find the revenue function R that gives the revenue from selling X TVs. Okay, now notice if they sell 10 TVs, they'll make $5,500 in revenue. And in fact, the revenue function R of X is just going to equal 550X. Now, to find the revenue from selling 600 TVs, what we would need to do is plug in 600 into this revenue function. So R of 600, what is that? Well, 550 times 600. That is equal to, if you have a calculator, you can see that's equal to 330,000. Okay, and that's really $330,000. Okay, so if they sell 600 TVs to the retailers, they'll generate $330,000 in revenue. Okay, now find the profit function P. Now remember that the profit is equal to the revenue, so P of X is equal to the revenue minus the cost. Okay, P of X is equal to R of X minus C of X. And we found our revenue function was 550X, and our cost function is 250X plus 213,000. Now remember to put this in parentheses here because you're not just subtracting that first term, you're subtracting this whole thing. Okay, now let's simplify the profit function a little bit. Let's get rid of the parentheses by distributing this negative. So we have 550X minus 250X minus 213,000. And 550X minus 250X is 300X. So our profit function is P of X is equal to 300X minus 213,000. Okay, and in part D, what is the profit from selling 500 TVs? Well, we need to plug in 500 into our profit function. And if we plug in 500 in for X, what we get is 150,000 minus 213,000, which is negative 63,000. Okay, so yikes. Negative 63,000, that's not good. That means they lost money. Okay, they didn't actually get a profit. So the profit is negative. Okay, it's negative $63,000. Okay, they didn't sell enough TVs to actually make a profit. Okay, their costs ended up being more than the revenue. Okay, and in fact, that illustrates what I'm going to say next here, is that a company can only make a profit if the revenue on a product exceeds the cost of manufacturing it. Okay, the number of units at which revenue equals cost, in other words, when you have profit zero, is called the break-even point. Okay, so find the break-even point for the TV manufacturer company from the previous example, then graph the revenue and cost functions. Okay, so let's remind ourselves here what the profit function was. P of X is 300X minus 213,000. And the question is, what values of X are going to make this positive? Okay, well, the best way to figure this out is figure out what value of X makes it 0. Okay, what value of X will make the profit be 0? Well, we can solve this equation then by adding 213,000 to both sides. Okay, and what we end up with is 213,000 is equal to 300X. And then since we're multiplying X by 300, we divide by 300 to get rid of it. And it turns out that X is equal to 710. Okay, if you do that on a calculator, 213,000 over 300 is 710. In other words, they need to sell 710 TVs in order to break even. Okay, if they sell more than 710 TVs, then they're going to generate a profit. If they sell fewer than 710 TVs, they will lose money. And notice we found out that when they sold only 500, they did lose money. Okay, they lost $63,000. Okay, but also this wants us to graph the revenue and cost functions. So let's just do a real rough sketch of the revenue and cost functions. Now the revenue function, let's remind ourselves, r of x, that was 500x. Okay, and the cost function, that was 250x minus, plus 213,000. Okay, so let's remind ourselves about these functions. So notice they're both linear functions. The r of x is steeper, it has a greater slope, it's 500, but the y-intercept is 0. So the 500x is going to look something like this. Okay, that's supposed to be a straight line. That's r of x equals 500x. But the c of x has a y-intercept of 213,000, but it's not as steep. Okay, so it's not as steep. Okay, this is the c of x, the cost function, and that was equal to 250x plus 213,000. And notice, where is the point where these intersect? It turns out that this would be at 710. Okay, at 710, that's where these lines intersect. Now, anything in this region, okay, you would have a negative profit. Remember, the profit is the revenue minus the cost, but over here the revenue is lower than the cost function, so you're losing money. Anything over here, okay, you're in the green, okay, or the black, is you're actually generating a positive profit. Okay, so you're making money when the revenue is greater than the cost. Okay, now over here, even though these lines go to the left of the y-axis, it actually doesn't even make sense to really have these over here because you can't sell a negative number of TVs. So really, these lines probably should just start at the at the y-axis and move right.